Okay, so I noticed that some people wanted some help with the trig inverse problem, so I'm going to go ahead and make a video on how to solve for angles using trig. Now, this problem we're asked to find the measure of angle V. So we know that V is going to be our reference angle. The next step here is identifying where our hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent sides are. Well, we always know that our hypotenuse is across from the right angle. So in this problem, we know our hypotenuse is 7. We also know that our opposite side works in the similar way. So if we know our reference angle, the opposite side is across the triangle from it. Now, I don't know anything about my opposite side. I don't want to know anything about this opposite side, so I don't really care about it in this problem. It's kind of irrelevant here. The other side that's left is 5. That's going to be our adjacent side. So once we figure out all of this, we're ready to set up a trig equation. Now, the question is, if I know my hypotenuse and adjacent sides, which trig function from SOHCAHTOA uses h and a? Now, from SOHCAHTOA, we know that cosine uses the hypotenuse and adjacent sides, so I'm going to use cosine to set up an equation. Since I don't know the angle measure of V, cosine of V is what I have on the left-hand side. Remember, we're trying to find this angle measure, so I don't have a number to plug in here yet. Cosine of V equals the adjacent side, 5, over the hypotenuse side, 7. So we've set up our trig equation using the information from the diagram. Our next step is to solve for angle V. What makes this a little difficult is that V is trapped inside of cosine. Okay, cosine is a function. It's trapped inside. You can think of it as like, well, if I had V squared and I just wanted V, what other function would I use to get rid of a power of 2? And what we know is that square roots and exponents of 2 cancel each other out. They're inverses. So we need to use a cosine inverse to cancel out and get inside to find V. So again, cosine inverse is its own function. So we're going to do cosine inverse. This little exponent of -1 is math language for inverse. Okay, it's not actually an exponent. This just triggers us on a calculator to use a different button than the regular cosine. So cosine inverse of 5 over 7 is going to give us the measure of angle V. Awesome. So we're ready to use a calculator at this point. So if you go into the Desmos scientific calculator, this will be our main screen. This is the screen that you signed into. These were the buttons that we were using before. We were using sine, cosine, and tangent on the lower left side. When we want to solve for angles, and only when we want to solve for angles, we go into this other menu, the function menu, and below all of our regular trig, we'll find all of our inverse trig. Now in this example, we wanted to use the cosine inverse. So we'll go ahead and click that button and type in the ratio for cosine, 5 over 7. Your answer will show up on the right-hand side, 44.41. In this case, we have to round it to 44.42. For IXL, if you type in that answer, 44.42, you'd be correct. I hope this helped, but if you have any other questions, feel free to schedule an office hours with me.